Alrighty, welcome back to part two. I was rambling, I know, and I didn't want to get the video too long because then it's a bitch to load and whatever. Anyway, I mentioned in the other video that I was getting messages about this, and I want to tell you a few stories as well. I was talking to King Joe on Facebook. We were talking about prices of conventions and all that stuff, which was cool. And a friend of mine actually was watching my old room video where I showed the autographs, and he was asking about Lou Ferrigno and stuff like that. And I actually was telling King Joe that Lou Ferrigno to me was a really nice guy, and he actually knocked a lot of his prices down when I had told him about a story about my mom, which I guess got him in the right spot because he's like, hey, you know what, all this stuff. Like basically, my friend wanted to know how it happened with Lou Ferrigno, so I'm going to tell you that story. And I'm going to show you some other stuff. Might be a long video again. Might have to make another part. Anyway, when I was a kid, my mom and I used to watch The Incredible Hulk together. Don't ask me why. I watched it because I thought the Hulk was cool when I was a kid. When that show came out, and I was just like amazed that for the time you're like, wow, this guy is the Hulk. Lou Ferrigno is the Hulk, and will always be the Hulk in my mind. No matter what CGC you throw out there, that he's still the Hulk. He's the real Hulk. And he was bending. I know it's movie magic, but he was bending steel girders and throwing cars and all this crap. And I was just like, yes, I was so excited. And my mom used to like Bill Bixby, which was a great actor. I liked him too. I thought he was cool. But again, when I was a kid, I was more the Hulk. Yeah, when's it gonna turn to the Hulk? So my mom and I, like I said, when the show came out, we'd watch it, and we were mostly watching the reruns because I wasn't aware of the Hulk, I guess, when it first came out. So we watched the the reruns more than anything else. And every time we knew what date and time they were coming out, we'd sit there and we'd watch it. We also watched the A-Team and other things together. And we were sitting there and we were watching the Hulk all the time, and we were just like, oh, this is great. And my mom was saying, she's like, wouldn't it be cool to meet the Hulk, and I didn't know what she was talking about at first. Apparently she was trying to segue me into a fact that she was bringing me to a convention that the Hulk was supposed to be at, Incredible Hulk. And I think Bill Bixby was supposed to be there as well. The more I remember it, I've been trying to rack my mind. I'm trying to remember that conversation. And I remember we had gone, and they had canceled, and no one knew they canceled. And it was back then it was the late '80s. I think it was like '88 or no, it was earlier than that. '85, '84, maybe '85. I really can't remember. I know it was in the '80s. But anyway, and no one had told them, and I know that the tickets were I think they were like $3 or something like that per person, and I was free. So, my mom and dad, which was like what $6, which back then I guess was a lot of money too. Now it's like chump change. But no one knew they had canceled, and my mom told me in the car, I'm like, she's like, oh, we're gonna go, you like your comics, we're gonna go to this convention and whatever, and then there's somebody there that you're gonna want to meet, and I was like, oh, who? And I didn't think of anything, and she's like, oh, the Hulk is gonna be there, and I was like, got all crazy. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, which is probably the worst thing you could do to a kid in the car, being like, oh, they get all pumped up, and when I got there. I was disappointed. I guess I might have been a little pissed off with my mother because I was like, well, where's the Hulk? There's no Hulk. And then this one guy came over that apparently was a worker there, and he's like, yeah, he's not coming. And I was like, I was just, I was shot, and I got pissed. I remember that because I was like, oh, you lied. You said the Hulk was gonna be here, and I was like, well, I thought he was supposed to be here, and and whole big thing. And then when I calmed down, when I come to my senses. I had made my mom a promise. I was like, one day I'm going to meet the Hulk, which is a weird promise, I guess. But I said, one day I'm going to meet him. And decades later, 2010. Was it 2010? No, I'm sorry, it was 2011. Yeah, 2011, because he was supposed to be at the 2010 Comic Con that I went to, but he had something else that he had to do that was obviously more important, which is, hey, it's fine. So I was like, oh, again, I was disappointed. I'm like, because I was so close again. And 2011, I saw the convention, and I told my fiance, I was like, the Hulk's supposed to be there. And she's like, well, he was supposed to be there last time. I was like, was like, this time I have a good feeling. I was like, this time he's gonna be there. I was like, I'm gonna meet him. I'm gonna tell him, all these things, and we went, and he was there, and he was the first person I sought out because I bought a VIP ticket. Uh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't buy a VIP ticket. I got a VIP ticket for the 2010 one and the 2012, but I didn't get one for the 2011. But I was still, in there pretty quickly, and I saw him, and I ran over to him, and then I was just like dumbfounded. I'm just like, like deer in headlights. So I was like, oh my god, it's Lou Ferrigno. I was like, it's the Hulk. And he's looking at me, and he's like, just kind of looking like, where do I look? Where's this guy creeping me out for? And my fiance just went, "Hula!" Hits me, and I was like, oh, I shook off of it. And I walked over. I was like, oh my god. And he's like, hey, how are you? I was like, I'm Lou Ferrigno. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I shook his hand, and I was like, I've been waiting to tell you this for, 20 years or something like that. And he's like, he was kind of like, not saying he wasn't listening, but he was just kind of looking around. He's like, all right, okay, because I guess you get some weird, I can imagine the weird stuff that they get. And I was looking, I was like, I got out my photos. I was like, could you sign these? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you were going to tell me something? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I've been waiting to meet you since, I was 5 years old. And I made a promise to my mom that I was going to meet you. I was like, one day I was going to meet you. And get a little teary because I accomplished the goal. I said one day I was going to meet you. I was like, I told my mom that, and my mom would be here to witness this. I was like, but she passed away in 2007, and I still wanted to fulfill the promise. So he actually, you could see it. He got a little teary as I'm doing now. Sorry, a little weepy. And he looked at me. He's like, really? I was like, yep. I was like, my mom tried to get me to meet you back in '85 or something like that. I think it was '85. And he's like, I think I remember that convention. He's like, hey, he goes, I had a lot of family things going on. I'm like, hey, And we were talking for a while, and then, because he had his prices were, some of the prices were on the side, like a list. And I was like, those are kind of rough. Like, I think one of them was like $60 for something, and, another thing was something else. I'm just like, wow. And then it was like, $30 per signature, and I was like, hey. And, I had some money, but I was just like, I kind of wanted to get my two things signed because my mom had got me a black and white photo of the Hulk, like back in the day, an 8x10, and I really wanted that signed. And I had bought a colored one from Phoenix Comics on Long Island, New York. There, he had a few things, and I got this way I think in like 2002 or 2003. I bought it because I just thought it was cool looking, and so I brought those, and he is the only one who did not have a handler. He didn't have, like, everyone else has, handlers, and they handle the money and all that other crap and negotiate. He didn't. He had a fanny pack, and he was all him. And he had a couple of, these, grab my nose itch, I'm getting in a fight, like books, which I probably should have brought them down if I was going to do this, but we've all seen them already anyway. But it was like, his story, his book, his novel thing, or whatever you want to call it. Not a novel, but, autobiography or whatever it is. My Life is the Incredible Hulk, and all these things. And it was like a photo and autograph was like $70 or something like that. And I was just like, oh my god. And my fiance was kind of like, And when I told him the story, I was like, I have these things signed. I really wanted to get signed. And I told him about the black and white one. He's like, I haven't seen one of those in a long time. And he was a nice guy. He really, really was. And he turned around. He's like, I'll tell you what. He's like, what I'm going to do for you. He goes, I'm going to sign these two photos. He's like, for free. And I was like, I looked at him. I was like, okay. And he's like, but if you do me a favor, he's like, if you buy my book, the book I think was like, I can't remember. I don't know if it was like 20, 30, or 40. I want to say the lower end. It might have been 30. But he was charging, I think it was 30 for the book, and then he was charging another 10 to autograph it. But anyway, he's like, if you buy the book, he's like, I'll sign the book. He's like, I'll sign these for free. And he goes, and I'll take a photo with you, and whoever else you want me to take a photo with. He's like, for the price of the book. So I bought the book. He signed it. He signed my two photos. He's like, he even gave me like this photo paper thing to put them in. He's like, put this in here. He's like, keep them safe. He's like, you don't want them to get damaged. And he gave me like this cardboard thing. He's like, put it in there. And I'm like, Jesus. Right? I was like, And he's like, come on over. And he comes over, and he's got this Polaroid camera I haven't seen in God knows how long. So, And he goes to my fiance. He's like, "You take the photo." He's like, "You know how to take a photo, right?" And she's like, and I was like, "Jess, when the Hulk tells you something, you do it." And as you saw the photo upstairs, he does like a little pose, and I was just like, just still dumbfounded. I'm like, well, I'm taking a photo with the Hulk, and he took a photo, and then he took a photo with my fiance, and he's like, all right, now you do it. I'm like, you got it, yeah, because when the Hulk tells you to do something, you do it. So I took a photo with he took a photo with her, and then um, he's like, come back over to the booth. So he went back over to the booth, and he's like, and he's going like this with the Polaroid, because kids of the '80s, and well, Polaroid, you gotta, you go like this with it, and it comes out faster. And he's talking to me, and we were talking about my mom and everything. And he's like, it was a good story, and all these things. And when the photo finally appeared, he signed the bottom, as you saw upstairs in the cave, which you'll see it again. But and then he signed my fiance's one, and it was cool. It was just a great experience, and I thought he was the nicest guy in the world, and he was just a cool guy, and he actually gave me a huge deal. He's like, you know what, I bought the book, like I said, the max of it, the max price I think was like $40 if that's what I paid, but he still signed the other two things and two photos, and I was talking to him for like a half hour, and and then he started to get busy, and I'm like, it was nice talking to you. I was like, and he's like, well, I'm glad I could help you fulfill your promise, and that was pretty much it. But King Joe and I were talking about, like I said, on Facebook when I mentioned we were talking about autographs, stuff like that, and how insane the prices are, and how King Joe, I hope you don't mind me mentioning, but how you say like you negotiate with the prices, and you really got it. You got to give it a shot, people. You got to remember that when you go to a convention, it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't. I mean, it might piss them off, but you never know. I mean, the way I see it, what are the odds you're going to see them again? In the future, unless you go to a convention again and they're there. But okay, so the odds are pretty good. But you get the point. Like, what are the odds? You're gonna run into people. I mean, the funny thing is, I ran into Bruce Campbell twice when I was trying to meet him in 2010 at other conventions, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I was like, but he asked me where the bathroom was one time, and then asked me how to get to one of the theaters, and I'm like, wow. And bumped into Linda Hamilton, walking around. I'm like, oh my God, And then I remember, what was it? I told King Joe that another interesting story was when we left the convention the first night. We went across the street to, I think it was Fridays. I don't know if it was Fridays or Applebee's. It might have been Applebee's. I think it was Applebee's. To get food, and as I'm walking there, we were like right in the front, like as we're getting ready to walk in, and they had a lot of cosplayers everywhere, which were freaking cool. Some of the things were amazing. And Ted DiBiase, the $1 Man, walks. He's like, "What are you?" He's like, "We were actually no, I'm sorry. We were at it wasn't Applebee's the first night. It was that was that place, the Melting Pot. Couldn't think of the freaking name. And we were walking out of the Melting Pot. This was and Ted DiBiase's walking in. He's like, "This place any good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it wasn't bad." I was like, "It was a little pricey." I was like, "But I was like, you're the $1 Million Man. I think you're gonna have a problem with that." He's like, "Yeah." So he went in there, and then the very next night we went to Applebee's, and we were literally sitting across the way from George Perez. And I'm sitting there, I couldn't even really eat, because I'm just like, that's George Perez, and I met him that day, but I was just like, wow, he's sitting right there. And I kept telling my fiance, I was like, I consider this having dinner with George Perez. I was like, I don't care. And it was funny. But yeah, so there's that, and there's still another thing I want to discuss. I know this is a lot of stories, but again, go to a convention. It doesn't hurt, especially if you're buying comics too. Try to talk people down in prices, because a lot of times they have higher prices because of that. They'll charge you $50, like say $50 for a book, because they expect you to say, hey, what, would you take 40? Or would you take 25? And like Greco, I almost said it wrong. Ooh, sorry, dude. Greco Fabulous. He's got that down to an art. Like when he goes on his Spidey Sense and the flea market halls and stuff like that, he's like, you look at something and it's like $30 price tag, and he's like, I'll give you $8. That's just awesome. I love it. So yeah, it's just the way. And I was telling King Joe about a friend of mine who is like, just relentless with it and unforgiving in a way. Like when he goes to conventions and how he, oh my God, he met who did he meet? He met Jesus. I'm trying to think of somebody he met that I remember he talked him down a lot. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the freaking actor now. Robert Carradine. Jesus. The guy who played Louis Skolnick in the Revenge of the Nerds series, who's actually David Carradine's brother. Went to a convention, and he was there, and I wanted to meet him, get an autograph, but when I saw the prices, I was like, no way. It was like $45 for an autograph, and then it was like 85 or something, or 100 for an autograph and a photo. And I was like, nah. I'm not doing that. I was like, I saw him. I was like, it would have been cool to get an autograph. And my friend walks up. He's like, screw it, man. He gets online. He's waiting and waiting. He gets up there, and he's like, he picked out, the picture, an 8x10. He's like, this is what I, want. And before they sign, of course, the handler's like, that's, He's like, do you want a photo? He's like, yeah, I want a photo too. And he's like, all right. He's like, that's, I don't know if it was $85 or $100, but whatever. He's like, all right. And my friend's like, nah, I'm not paying that. And the handler, like, Robert Carradine was just kind of like, looking away, kind of like, I guess, because they don't want to deal with it. That's what the handler's for, I guess, to deal with all this shit. They're just like the monkey to sign the thing and pass it out. And the handler's like, well, that's the price. He's like, well, I'm not paying, let's just say $80. He's like, I'm not paying $80 for that. He's like, you got to be out of your mind. He's like, you're not that big of a star anymore. And I was like, wow. I was like, we're going to get kicked out. And and the guy's like, well, then, he's like, then get off the line. He's like, he's like, I'll tell you what. He's like, I'll give you 25, for a photo and the autograph. And the guy's like, no. He's like, you're not taking 20. I'm not taking 25. He's like, let me tell you something. He's like, I waited on that line for, he's like, for 2.5 hours. He's like, 2.5 hours. He goes, for someone who's not that famous anymore. And I was like, wow. And I was just like, where do I look? Yeah. And he goes, 2.5 hours. He goes, you took up my time. And he goes, let me tell you something. He's like, I have money. And he shows, like, the guy, like, a stack of 20s. And he's like, I'm not paying $80 to have my photo taken with, Skolnick here. And, get an autograph. He's like, work with me here. He's like, I'm going to take this money. I'm going to leave. And surprisingly enough, Robert Carradine turned around and goes, he's like, it's fine. It's fine. So for $25 that originally was like 85 or whatever it was, my friend got a photo with him and an autograph. And it was just funny because, like, my friend's like, in the autograph and Skolnick there's just like, good times. But I'm going to stop this here and I'm going to come back with a part 3. I know I've been rambling telling these stories, just trying to maybe make you have some fun in this thing, give you some insight. But I wanted to show a couple things, like I said, and answer the questions that I had. But like I said, I don't want to make the videos too long. So come back for part 3. I'm sorry, but come back. It's going to be fun.